here with Dezi Freeman, and we're here in beautiful Violet Town listening to all the background traffic there, which is completely destroying all of our sound. Dezi arrested a magistrate in Wangaratta Court about 2 weeks ago, was it? And can you tell us a little bit about the background of that?
Yeah, okay, so this is a case that's been going on for 2.5 years. That was the 15th hearing, as I said in the video. Now, whoever filmed the video didn't explain the whole situation in that video. So, to clarify what went on there, it relates to originally to a current affair story a lot of people have seen with the Sakatelli characters out at Buffalo Creek. After that, what a lot of people don't know is that these other bogans moved up from Melbourne and then tried to take over a 120-year-old access road to Mount Buffalo. Of course, I tried to explain to them what the law was and Supreme Court rulings on that matter, and it's just turned into an absolute monstrosity ever since. Now, the court and the police are well aware of what went on, where me and my family have been abused.
So what was your connection to that road?
So it originally started with an issue over access to Mount Buffalo along a public road. Now, we lived in a place at the end of Buffalo Creek Road, me and my wife and kids. We had access to that beautiful national park, which is why we even lived there. And then these people move up from Melbourne and start trying to take over the road, which, you know, is not a new situation. It's been done right through history. And here we go again. Thankfully though, the Supreme Court had set a landmark precedent the year before in 2016 about public highways at common law. Well, these new people from Melbourne, they weren't the slightest bit interested in that. They just wanted to take over the road, and which meant they get to take over half of Mount Buffalo National Park for themselves by having exclusive access to it. Now, locals are not happy about that, and no one's about to let these people get away with it, especially not me, who loves Mount Buffalo. I've been hiking all over it my whole life, and a lot of people are familiar with my photography.
So what happened from there, Dezi?
Well, look, to cut a very long story short, these people abused the process, took out a fraudulent intervention order against me when I should have been taking it out against all of them, and actually had the grounds to do it. But instead they took out a completely fraudulent intervention order against me based on numerous counts of perjury, of which I have detailed affidavits written on. And of course, everybody knows the major problem with intervention orders, they get handed out like candy. Now, Magistrate John Murphy once said he couldn't stand how intervention orders were being handed out like candy. Now, that then has been an attempt to criminalise and demonise me, and I've done nothing. I've broken no laws. I've been the one that's tried to uphold the law through this whole situation, and every time I've been to court, I've told the magistrates directly, I'm the one upholding the law here, and you're all breaking it. And all they've done is break the law more and more and more. And that last hearing was supposed to be about me making submissions to have that fraudulent intervention order thrown out, because Magistrate Stella Stuthridge, who actually did some good things in this matter, I'll read you what she said. Originally, when these people, this Gary French and his cohorts, had taken out this false intervention order against me, Magistrate Stella Stuthridge in court that day, back in 2018, the lawyer for these people, Charles Morgan, who's been a traitor to the local community, I might add, he said, my client has decided to proceed by way of intervention application. He said if that application is successful and an order is made, it will in effect achieve the purpose that my clients seek in the civil action. Now that was about them controlling the road. 120-year-old public highway at common law to our Mount Buffalo National Park. So I know, well, he just wants to abuse the process and get an intervention order against me. So what did magistrates tell us Stuthridge say? And I was going to quote this again on the day I arrested Dunn and the 4 cops in the courtroom. Peter Dunn, I arrest you for aiding and abetting. Okay. I arrest you for acting oppressively and when interested and perverting the course of justice. You must stand down. You are now in my custody and under arrest. You are not free to leave. And what did Dunn say? Oh no, I don't want to hear it. Not given evidence. Well, I've got evidence. Here it is. Magistrate Stella Stuthridge said, that's a bit naughty. That's a little bit naughty in that Mr. Freeman really argues that there is effectively a right of way across their property and that's not a fair way to deal with that. She said, I granted the interim order on the basis that I just wanted peace to reign while we sorted out the civil matter. I'm not going to allow it. Mr. Freeman would then have every right to complain about the justice of the matter. And here I am, and here I was in court for the 15th time still complaining about the justice of the matter. And what did Dunn do? Perverted the course of justice yet again, trying to railroad the process to a final hearing. See, once you got an intervention order, then they breach it on the most trivial things. Now, a lot of people will be familiar with one example, Coy Garcia in Sydney. He mentioned his own kids' names on the internet and he's doing 14 months in Parkley Private Prison for profit for that one charge because of this abomination that intervention orders are. Now, Bettina Arndt has come out and done some interviews with ex-police prosecutors and another guy recently, a lawyer called Neil McCarthy, who used to be a prosecutor as well, and they've torn the lid right off these fraudulent intervention orders being misused and abused, and even worse, the court's entertaining them, knowing that they're fraudulent, knowing that they're based on perjury. The court willingly perverting the course of justice and doing direct harm to innocent people and destroying families. Coy Garcia is just one example. Me, I'm not tolerating it. So you saw an arrest of a magistrate and the 4 cops who refused to do their duty.
So that was correct me if I'm wrong, 15 court appearances on the one matter?
Yep, since the road issue started.
Yeah.
And then they turned that into intervention order because that's the way they abused the process to try and control that road. See, if they could shut me out of there, they can then use me as a scapegoat and as an example to scare everyone else out of there.
Okay.
So they picked what they thought was the weakest link because I got no money, and I just rented it at the end of the road there, and they thought I'm nobody in their little worldly scale. But what they found out is the opposite, and they wasted about $100,000 already. Yeah. They got a big shock because there was 2 particular court hearings last year under Magistrate Dunn, and people need to realise that this case with Dunn, it wasn't the first one. There's been plenty before. All I did was apply for a rehearing because I wasn't even allowed to be at the first hearing when the fraudulent intervention order was made. I'm not able to give any evidence so that there could be a balance of probabilities. I was denied natural justice. And when I went in there to simply apply for a rehearing, instead I got a whole full day court hearing, a full day in the Wangaratta Court with Sergeant Paul Evans from Myrtleford, 2 lawyers of French in his mob, the police prosecutor, Mario Aliades, who's since been given the boot, and Dunn, and they all worked together and colluded and conspired to attack me all day long when I'm just there applying for a rehearing. And then that got adjourned. I didn't even get to have me say. That got adjourned for 3 months till November last year. And I went back there on the 1st of November last year. And that was interesting because they started again and they committed multiple crimes in the courtroom. I even threatened to arrest Mario Aliades that day for breaching the Spent Convictions Act and the Commonwealth one, under the Commonwealth Crimes Act. Anyway, at the end of that day, I got to make my submission after all those months and full days in court. Now that court complex was closed that day.
Yep.
It was only open for me. And Sergeant Paul Evans was on leave for an operation, but he put his uniform on and came all the way down to Wangaratta to help to try to criminalise me. Well, they failed, because what happened was that the last hour I got up there and I made a 1 hour standing submission non-stop, didn't stop for breath, and I outlined all the crimes they were committing and how there is no intervention order against me because it wasn't made pursuant to the legislative framework that governs it. And then the lawyer and Aliades had to get up and say something, and it was like, they didn't know what to say. Anyway, then the prosecutor, he gets up and he asked Dunn to be excused from any further hearings in this matter. And then Alison Vaughan, the barrister, she jumped on board and did the same. She wanted to be excused from any further hearings as well, because I just opened them up. This is the power of the truth. The truth is more powerful than 1,000 lies. That's why I keep fighting, because I know that I'm winning with the truth. You cannot beat the truth. Anyway, they tuck tail and run with their lawyer and their prosecutor, and then Dunn was banned from any further hearings with me. He even recused himself from any further hearings for me, as I explained in the court that day. What did the registrar do? Set me up with Dunn. And what did Dunn try to do? He tried to railroad it to a full hearing with all their prosecution witnesses to criminalise me. I know full well that he's going to completely ignore the voir dire that I put in place. Now, a voir dire is when there's issues that have to be heard before the case can proceed. Now, I opened that up in December last year. Magistrate Stella Stuthridge, she did another good thing, and I hope she's watching this video. She told the prosecutions that day, Stuart Pritchard.
Yeah.
She said she's setting down a hearing to hear my submissions only on having the whole case thrown out because it was fraudulent and it was abuse of process. Right? She said prosecutions are on notice, and I've got the document there, I can read it. Prosecutions are on notice that it'll only be a hearing for Mr. Freeman to make submissions on having the matter thrown out. So they knew, and the clerk was there, the registrar, they know, and they're supposed to record what the magistrate says. What'd they do? Get me in front of Dunn, who Magistrate Stuthridge even says was banned from it, and he tries to railroad me. So that's why he got arrested. He tried to pervert the course of justice. He's acted oppressively when interested. These are all crimes under the Crimes Act and other acts. There's numerous ones. Then as far as the police goes, a lawful arrest was made under Section 458 of the Crimes Act by me.
Yeah.
Those police, it's not up to them to be judge and jury on the spot. They have to make the arrest. And they, as you saw, they did not.
Yeah.
So they've set themselves up for all kinds of prosecutions themselves. And more to the point, they've exposed themselves as being biased and corrupt to the whole world, to the jury of 7 billion on social media, which is more powerful than their stupid courts anyway.
I believe after the arrest you had one person saying that you hadn't fulfilled all of the requirements for a legal arrest. What have you got to say about that?
That's a joke, because when I arrested Magistrate Ian Watkins last year, this Rob Sudi character, a lot of people will be familiar with that nasty little piece of work. He got on there and wrote a bunch of trash about me on the internet, and he tried to say, oh, you've got to fulfil these five things to have a lawful arrest. Well, yeah, I learnt that one real well, thanks Rob Sudi, and I made damn sure that I did fulfil those. And if you want to read those online, we'll put them up on the screen.
Yeah.
And then watch that video again of me arrested, you'll see that I fulfilled all of those. The magistrate understood what he was being arrested for, and I told him he was not free to leave. Arrest doesn't mean you go and handcuff him and crash tackle him to the ground. That's for TV shows.
Much as he'd like to.
Sure. An arrest, well, look, I know that there's a gang of armed thugs, which I stated on the court record for the Supreme and High Court justices and the 7 billion people out there, right?
Yeah.
I was surrounded by an armed criminal gang that are completely happy with breaking the law, which is what they did and what they always do. So their credibility, they've destroyed their credibility once again, because they've done a damn good job of it, especially this year, worldwide, in pissing people off and showing what a criminal cartel they are.
Sounds like they pissed the wrong person off, mate.
Well, they keep doing that, you know. And look, this is nothing new. This is going on for thousands of years. Ned Kelly and William Wallace and a million others, millions of others. And what happens to all these these criminal megalomaniacs that rise up in history? They fall down. And again, we're in those times now. We've got police bashing up grannies and beating up pregnant women and doing home invasions and all of this stuff based on this COVID rubbish, and in complete breach of a number of laws. Now, one of those laws I read out to that at the end of that court video was that cop that stood too close to me and wasn't social distancing, by the way. He turned his body camera on. You see that bip, and then I turned around and I hand him a piece of paper, Section 83(4) of the Criminal Code Act. Look it up. Criminal Code Act 1995. Anyone who uses force or intimidation or violence or anything to interfere with a person's exercise of a political or democratic right or duty, 3 years prison is the sentence for that. And that's one of the charges I arrested him on. And these laws are just constantly being ignored on a daily basis by the million, statewide, nationwide, worldwide. So we've all got to speak up about it and not just take it. Shine the light.
Excellent. Well done, Dezi. Thanks for the information.
I bought all the court videos. They charge you $55 a piece for it. That's okay, because now I've got evidence that I can use in the Supreme Court of what was said and what was done and the crimes that have been committed in the courtroom. And that's only the start of the evidence I've got.
Well, looking forward to it, mate. We'll see how it goes.
And I invite them to, one more thing is I invite the police and the court to silence me.
Yeah.
There's only one way to silence me. Obey the law and do justice and stop trying to criminalise me. Do the right thing and I'll have no reason to expose you.
Brilliant.
There's a point when you cannot walk away, when you have to stand up straight and tall and mean the words you say. There is a point you must decide just to do it 'cause it's right. That's when you become a point of light. There is a darkness that everyone must face. It wants to take what's good and fair and lay it all to waste. And that darkness covers everything inside until it meets a single point of light. All it takes is a point of light, a ray of hope in the dark.